Once upon a time, in a kingdom banked by snow-capped mountains and lush forests, there lived a young princess named Snow White. She was known far and wide for her extraordinary beauty, with skin as white as snow, lips as red as roses, and hair as dark as ebony. Snow White's mother, the beloved queen, passed away when she was just a child, leaving her in the care of her father, the king. But the king's heart was heavy with grief, and he soon remarried a woman who was as beautiful as she was wicked. This woman, Snow White's stepmother, was consumed by jealousy at the thought of anyone surpassing her in beauty. Every day, the queen would stand before her magic mirror and ask, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And for years, the mirror would reply, "You, my queen, are the fairest in the land." But as Snow White grew older, the mirror's answer changed. "Snow White, the fairest of them all," it proclaimed. Enraged and consumed by jealousy, the queen plotted to rid herself of Snow White forever. One fateful day, the queen ordered her huntsmen to take Snow White deep into the forest and to return with her heart as proof of her demise. Though the huntsman hesitated, he ultimately could not disobey the queen's command. However, when the time came, he found himself unable to carry out the wicked deed. Instead, he warned Snow White of the queen's treachery and set her free into the depths of the forest. Lost and alone, Snow White stumbled upon a quaint cottage nestled among the trees. Inside, she discovered that the cottage belonged to 7 dwarfs who worked tirelessly in the nearby mines. Touched by her plight, the dwarfs welcomed Snow White into their home with open arms, and she became like a sister to them. Meanwhile, the queen, still consumed by her jealousy, devised a new plan to rid herself of Snow White. Disguising herself as an old peddler woman, she crafted a poisoned apple that would cast a spell of eternal sleep upon whoever took a bite. When the queen arrived at the dwarf's cottage, she found Snow White alone and vulnerable. Pretending to be a kind-hearted stranger, she offered the poisoned apple to Snow White, who innocently took a bite and fell into a deep slumber. Heartbroken, the dwarfs placed Snow White in a glass coffin and mourned her loss. But their grief attracted the attention of a passing prince who was captivated by Snow White's beauty. With a gentle kiss, he broke the curse, and Snow White woke once more. As the kingdom rejoiced at Snow White's return, the queen's wickedness was exposed. In her fury, she attempted to flee, but justice caught up with her, and she met her rightful end. With the queen's tyranny at an end, Snow White and the prince were married in a grand ceremony, and the dwarfs rejoiced at their newfound happiness. Together they ruled the kingdom with kindness and compassion, ensuring that peace and harmony prevailed for generations to come. And though the challenges may arise, their enduring love and courage would always see them through, forever etching their story into the annals of fairy tale legend. The Magical Forest Adventure. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between rolling hills and meandering streams, there lived a curious group of friends: Lily the rabbit, Oliver the squirrel, and Benny the bluebird. One sunny morning, as the friends gathered near their favorite tree stump, they overheard a rumor about a magical forest that appeared only once every 100 years. Excitement filled the air, and without a second thought, Lily, Oliver, and Benny decided to embark on a grand adventure to find this enchanted forest, armed with their boundless curiosity and a map drawn by the wise old Professor Hoods. The trio set off on their journey. The path was filled with tall grass, wild flowers, and butterflies that danced in the warm breeze. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating a magical play of light and shadows. Suddenly, they stumbled upon a peculiar looking door hidden behind a bush. Benny, with his tiny beak, opened the door, revealing a message into a world filled with vibrant colors and talking animals. It was the magical forest they had been searching for. In this enchanted land, the friends encountered a wise and friendly tree named Whimsy Willow, who told them about the forest guardian, a mystical creature with the power to grant one wish to those who could pass a series of challenges. Determined to test their courage and wit, Lily, Oliver, and Benny eagerly accepted the challenges set by the forest guardian. Their first challenge was a riddle posed by the naughty Cheshire Cat. With teamwork and clever thinking, they solved the riddle and earned the approval of the mystical cat. The second challenge involved a friendly race against a fleet footed rabbit named Dash. Despite Benny's tiny wings, they devised a strategy that led to a surprising victory. As they completed each challenge, the forest became more enchanted, with sparkling fireflies, glowing mushrooms, and melodious bird songs. Finally, they reached the heart of the forest, where the magnificent forest guardian awaited them. The guardian, a majestic unicorn with a coat as soft as moonlight, asked the friends about their deepest desires. Lily wished for a garden full of the sweetest carrots. Oliver dreamed of a treetop library filled with acorn books, and Benny wished for the ability to visit new places every day. The forest guardian, pleased with their selfless and imaginative wishes, granted them with magical tokens. As the friends returned to their village, they discovered that the tokens had transformed their dreams into reality. From that day on, Lily, Oliver, and Benny cherished their magical adventure and the bonds they shared. They often gathered by the tree stump, sharing stories with the other animals about the enchanted forest and the lessons they had learned about friendship, courage, and the magic that lies within the heart of every adventure. And so, in this small village, surrounded by hills and streams, the tales of the magical forest lived on, inspiring generations of curious and adventurous young animals. Once upon a time, in the colorful land of Sparkleton, there lived a curious little girl named Lily. Lily loved exploring the enchanted forest near her house, where magical creatures and talking animals lived. One sunny day, as Lily wandered deeper into the forest, she stumbled upon a hidden clearing. In the center of the clearing, There was a magical rainbow with shimmering colors unlike any she had ever seen. Intrigued, Lily approached the rainbow and noticed that each color had a unique sparkle. Curiosity got the better of Lily, and she decided to touch the red stripe. To her surprise, a friendly squirrel appeared wearing a tiny crown. The squirrel introduced itself as Ruby and explained that the rainbow had the power to bring joy to anyone who discovered its secret. Excited, Lily touched the orange stripe next, and a naughty rabbit named Oliver hopped into view. Then came the yellow stripe, and a cheerful bird named Sunny joined the group. Lily continued touching each color of the rainbow, and with each touch, a new magical friend appeared. Green for Gracie, the wise turtle. Blue for Benny, the playful dolphin. Indigo for Iris, the kind butterfly, and violet for Victor, the gentle unicorn. Together, they formed the Rainbow Brigade, a group of friends who spread happiness and kindness throughout Sparkleton. Lily and her newfound friends went to many adventures, helping other creatures in need and making the once hidden clearing a joyful place for everyone. And so, in the heart of Sparkleton, the magical rainbow continued to shine, reminding everyone that friendship, kindness, and a touch of magic could make the world a brighter and more colorful place. And whenever children like Lily needed a bit of magic in their lives, the Rainbow Brigade was there to share the joy of Sparkleton's enchanted forest. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a kind and gentle girl named Cinderella. She lived with her cruel stepmother and two stepsisters, who made her do all the chores in the house while they lazed around. Despite her hardships, Cinderella remained cheerful and hopeful, finding solace in the company of the mice and birds that befriended her. She dreamed of a better life, far away from the drudgery of her daily tasks. One day, the kingdom received an invitation to a grand ball hosted by the prince. Every maiden in the land was invited, for the prince was in search of a bride. Cinderella's stepsisters were overjoyed at the prospect of attending the ball, but they made sure Cinderella knew she was not welcome. As the day of the ball approached, Cinderella watched with a heavy heart as her stepsisters prepared their gowns and jewelry. Left behind in rags, she retreated to the garden where tears stung her eyes. Suddenly, a shimmering figure appeared before her. It was her fairy godmother. With a wave of her wand and a sprinkle of magic, she transformed Cinderella's tattered dress into a magnificent gown, her worn-out shoes into sparkling glass slippers, and a pumpkin into a majestic carriage. But the fairy godmother warned Cinderella that the magic would only last until midnight. Grateful for this chance, Cinderella promised to heed her warning and set off for the ball. As Cinderella arrived at the grand palace, she captivated everyone with her beauty and grace. Even her stepsisters failed to recognize her. The prince, drawn to her kindness and charm, asked her to dance, and they danced the night away. But as the clock struck midnight, Cinderella remembered her fairy godmother's warning and fled from the palace, leaving behind one of her glass slippers. In her haste, she didn't notice that the slipper had slipped off her food. The next day, the prince declared that he would search the kingdom for the mysterious maiden who had stolen his heart. He would marry whoever the sleeper fit. Cinderella's stepsisters tried to force their feet into the sleeper, but it was too small for them. Finally, it was Cinderella's turn. As she slipped her foot into the glass sleeper, it fit perfectly. Overjoyed, the prince recognized her as the enchanting maiden from the ball. He declared Cinderella his bride, and they were married in a splendid ceremony attended by all the kingdom. And so Cinderella's day of hardship came to an end as she embarked on a new chapter of her life, filled with love, happiness, and the promise of happily ever after. Once upon a time, in the kingdom of Evalandia, there lived a kind and gentle princess named Amelia. Princess Amelia was known throughout the land for her compassion, her wisdom, and her love for all living creatures. Her kingdom was a place of peace and harmony, where every citizen was treated with kindness and respect. But despite the joy that filled her kingdom, Princess Amelia often felt a sense of longing in her heart. She dreamed of adventure beyond the palace walls, of exploring distant lands and discovering hidden treasures. Little did she know that her greatest adventure was about to begin. One bright morning, as Princess Amelia strolled through the palace garden, she stumbled upon a mysterious old map hidden among the roses. The map depicted a distant island shrouded in mist, rumored to be home to a magical artifact of great power. Intrigued by the map's secrets, Princess Amelia knew that she had to embark on a quest to uncover the truth. With the blessing of her parents, the king and queen, she set off on a grand adventure accompanied by her loyal companion, a brave and noble knight named Sir Embert. Together, Princess Amelia and Sir Edmund sailed across stormy seas and treacherous waters, facing countless challenges along the way. She battled fierce sea monsters, navigated treacherous currents, and weathered raging storms, but their determination never wavered. After many days of travel, they finally reached the mysterious island depicted on the map. As they explored its lush jungles and towering cliffs, they encountered all manner of wonders, sparkling waterfalls, ancient ruins, and exotic creatures unlike any they had ever seen. But their journey was far from over. Guided by clues hidden within the map, Princess Amelia and Sir Edmund ventured deep into the heart of the island, where they discovered a hidden temple concealed within the dense foliage. Inside the temple, they found the object of their quest, a shimmering crystal or pulsating with overworldly energy. Legend had it that whoever possessed the orb would gain the power of bring peace and prosperity to their kingdom for generations to come. But before they could claim the orb, they were confronted by a formidable adversary, a wicked sorcerer who sought to harness its power for his own nefarious purposes. With his dark magic, he summoned a legion of shadow creatures to do his bidding, threatening to unleash chaos upon the land. Undaunted Princess Amelia and Sir Edmund stood firm, facing the sorcerer with courage and determination, With the power of friendship and the strength of their hearts, they fought bravely against the forces of darkness, never once backing down from the challenge before them. In the end, it was Princess Amelia's kindness and compassion that proved to be their greatest weapon. With a single act of selflessness, she reached out of the sorcerer, offering him forgiveness and an understanding in the face of his hatred and anger. Touched by her sincerity, the sorcerer's heart was softened and he held on the orb. With a final burst of light, the crystal orb shattered the darkness, filling the temple with radiant energy and restoring peace to the land. As they returned home to Everlandia, Princess Amelia and Sir Edmund were hailed as heroes, their bravery celebrated throughout the kingdom. But though their adventure had come to an end, they knew that their bond would endure forever, guiding them through whatever trials future might hold. And so, Princess Amelia's quest had not only brought light to the darkness, but had also taught her a valuable lesson that true courage lies not in the strength of one's sword, but in the depth of one's heart. And with that knowledge, she ruled her kingdom with wisdom and compassion, ensuring that the light of Everlandia would shine bright of all eternity. Once upon a time in the town of Giggleburg there lived a mischievous pancake named Fluffy. Fluffy wasn't ordinary cake. Oh no, he had a dream to see the world beyond the breakfast plate. He wanted to explore the kitchen and beyond, and he had a plan. One sunny morning, as the kitchen buzzed late with activity, Fluffy decided it was the perfect time to make his move. The kitchen was filled with the aroma of sizzling bacon, popping popcorn, and the enticing smell of fresh coffee. Fluffy knew this was his chance to escape the griddle. With a flap and a flip, Fluffy catapulted himself off the griddle and rolled across the countertop. He giggled as he slid down the butter dish and somersaulted over the syrup bottle. His pancake friends gasped, watching Fluffy's daring adventure. "Wait for us, Fluffy," shouted Pancake, Patty, and Wiggly Waffle as they joined the escapade. The trio wiggled their way through the kitchen, narrowly avoiding the chef's whisk and dodging the slippery banana peels. They giggled and laughed, leaving a trail of syrupy footprints behind them. As they reached the edge of the kitchen, Fluffy had a brilliant idea. "Let's ride the kitchen towels like slides and make a grand exit." They climbed up the kitchen towels and whooshed down, landing in a pile of flour, while clouds filled the air as they emerged, looking like little flowery goats. Giggles echoed through the kitchen. The kitchen was just the beginning for these adventurous pancakes. They rolled through the dining room, navigated the hallways, and even took a detour through the garden. Fluffy marveled at the giant broccoli trees and the towering cauliflower castles. But as the sun began to set, Fluffy realized it was time to return to the kitchen. The pancakes raced back, sliding down the kitchen towels one last time, the somersaulting over the syrup bottle. As they settled back onto the griddle, Pancake Patty said that was the most exciting adventure ever. Fluffy agreed and said, "But you know what? The best place in the world is right here. on the breakfast plate with her pancake pals. And so, with a contented sizzle, the pancakes nestled together, grateful for their funny and flippant adventure in the big white kitchen. From that day on, whenever the chef entered the kitchen, the pancakes would share secret giggles, remembering the great pancake escape. In the enchanted town of Munchington, there was a magical donut named Danny. Unlike ordinary donuts, Danny could dance. Whenever someone played cheerful music, Danny would spin and twirl, creating a mesmerizing dance routine. One day, a baker named Benny discovered Danny's talent. Benny decided to host a dance-off competition in Munchington, inviting all the donuts in town to showcase their dance moves. Little did they know, Danny the dancing donut would steal the show. As the competition began, Danny grooved to the beat, performing spins, twists, and even a donut breakdance. The audience could not stop laughing and clapping. Danny became the town's favorite, and every time someone visited Munchington, they could not live without witnessing the incredible dance of Danny, the dancing donut. Once upon a time, in the whimsical land of Giggleburg, there lived a little sandwich named Sammy. Sammy was no ordinary sandwich. He had a magical ability to tell jokes. Every time someone took a bite of Sammy, they would burst into laughter. One day, a group of hungry kids discovered Sammy at the Giggleburg Park. They decided to have a picnic and share the sandwich. As each child took a bite, Sammy cracked a silly joke, and soon the park echoed with laughter. The more the kids laughed, the sillier Sammy's jokes became. The trees giggled, the flowers chuckled, and even the clouds could not resist joining in the fun. Sammy the silly sandwich became a legend in Giggleburg, spreading joy and laughter wherever he went. In the jungle of Laughterland, there was a tiger named Tessa who was incredibly ticklish. Every time someone tried to tickle her, she would burst into fits of giggles, causing the entire jungle to shake with laughter. One day, a mischievous monkey named Max decided to organize a Ticklish Tiger challenge. Animals from all around the jungle gathered to see who caught Tickle Tessa without getting caught. The bravest ones approached Tessa, armed with feathers, leaves, and even soft clouds. As the tickling began, Tessa rolled on the ground, laughing uproariously. The animals took turns trying to outdo each other in. Once upon a time, in a magical kingdom far, far away, there lived a wise and queen named Queen Isabella. She ruled over her kingdom with grace and compassion, always putting the needs of her people first. Queen Isabella was beloved by all who knew her, not only for her beauty, but also for her generous spirit and wise counsel. Every day she would walk through the streets of her kingdom, listening to the hopes and concerns of her subjects and doing everything in her power to help them. But Queen Isabella faced a great challenge. The neighboring kingdom, ruled by the wicked Queen Morgana, had been causing trouble. Queen Morgana was jealous of Queen Isabella's popularity and sought to overthrow her and take control of her kingdom. Despite Queen Morgana's schemes, Queen Isabella remained steadfast and courageous. She knew that she could not defeat Queen Morgana with force alone, so she devised a plan to outsmart her rival. With the help of her loyal advisors and the cleverest minds in the kingdom, Queen Isabella concocted a plan to bring peace to the land. She invited Queen Morgana to a grand feast where they would discuss their differences and find a way to coexist peacefully. At the feast, Queen Isabella showed Queen Morgana nothing but kindness and respect. Despite the other queen's attempts to provoke her, with her calm demeanor and sharp wit, Queen Isabella managed to diffuse the tension and convince Queen Morgana to agree to a truce. From that day, From that day on, the two kingdoms lived in harmony, thanks to the wisdom and diplomacy of Queen Isabella. She became known throughout the land as a peacemaker and a beacon of hope. But Queen Isabella's greatest legacy was the way she inspired others to follow in her footsteps. She taught her people that true strength comes not from power or wealth, but from kindness, compassion, and the courage to do what is right. And so, Queen Isabella's reign continued for many years, bringing prosperity and happiness to all who dwelled in her kingdom. And though she may have faced many challenges along the way, she always remained true to her heart, earning her a place in history as one of the greatest queens the world had ever known. Once upon a time, in a quaint little village nestled between rolling hills and lush green meadows, there was a magical orchard unlike any other. This orchard was home to a variety of enchanting fruits, each with its own unique personality and special powers. At the heart of the orchard stood a majestic apple tree named Alexander, whose shiny red apples were known throughout the land for their incredible sweetness and healing properties. Alexander was wise and kind, always ready to offer advice and guidance to his fellow fruits. Next to Alexander grew a naughty bunch of grapes called Gabby and Gus. They loved to play tricks on the other fruits, but deep down they had hearts of gold and were fiercely loyal to their friends. In a cozy corner of the orchard, there was a pair of adventurous oranges named Olivia and Oscar. They were always eager to explore new places and discover hidden treasures, filling the orchard with laughter and excitement wherever they went. On the outskirts of the orchard, there was a quiet and mysterious fig tree named Fiona. She possessed ancient knowledge and secrets passed down through generations, and her wife Fix held the power to unlock forgotten memories and dreams. Together, Alexander, Gabby, Goose, Olivia, Oscar, and Fiona lived in harmony, sharing stories, laughter, and the bountiful gifts of the orchard with all who visited. But their peaceful existence was soon threatened by an evil sorcerer who sought to claim the orchard's magic for himself. Determined to protect their home, the fruits banded together, using their unique powers and cunning wit to outsmart the sorcerer and safeguard the orchard's precious magic. With bravery, friendship, and a sprinkle of magic, they emerged victorious, ensuring that the orchard would remain a haven of wonder and delight for generations to come. And so, the magical orchard continued to thrive, its fruits shining brightly as beacons of joy and hope in a world filled with wonder and possibility. Once upon a time, in a quaint little village nestled between rolling hills and whispering trees, lived a curious little girl named Luna. Luna was not like other children in the village. She possessed a heart full of wonder and a mind eager for adventure. One moonlight night, as Luna gazed up at the starry sky from her bedroom window, a soft glow emanated from the depths of the nearby forest. Intrigued by the mischievous light, Luna decided to embark on a magical adventure. With her loyal companion, a mischievous kitten named Whiskers, by her side. Guided by the twinkling night, Luna ventured into the heart of the forest. The trees whispered secrets of ancient magic, and the night seemed alive with possibilities. As Luna and Whiskers journeyed deeper into the woods, they stumbled upon a clearing bathed in silver moonlight. In the center of the clearing stood a magnificent tree, its branches reaching towards the heavens like outstretched arms. As Luna approached, the tree began to shimmer and sway, revealing a hidden doorway at its base. Without hesitation, Luna and Whiskers stepped through the enchanted portal. On the other side, they found themselves in a world unlike any they had ever seen. Trees soared to dizzying heights, their leaves shimmering with indecent colors. Creatures of myth and legend roamed freely from graceful unicorns to mischievous fairies. Luna and Whiskers were greeted warmly by the inhabitants of this enchanted forest. They shared tales of bravery and kindness, and Luna felt a sense of belonging she had never known before. But as the night wore on, Luna began to feel a tug at her heartstrings, reminding her of the home she had left behind. With heavy hearts, Luna and Whiskers bid farewell to their new friends and began to journey back through the magical portal. As they emerged on the other side, the first rays of dawn painted the sky in shadows of pink and gold. Luna knew that while her adventure had come to an end, the memories she had made would last a lifetime. With a contented sigh, Luna climbed back into bed, Whiskers curling up at her side as she drifted off to sleep. She whispered a promise to herself to never stop seeking magic in the world around her and to always follow her heart wherever it may lead. As so nestled safely in the embrace of her dreams, Luna embarked on countless more adventures, both real and imagined, knowing that the greatest magic of all was the love and courage that dwelt within her heart. Once upon a time, in a kingdom far, far away, there lived a princess named Aurora. She wasn't just any princess, she possessed a magical gift, the ability to bring harmony wherever she went. But one day, an evil scorcher named Malachi cast a spell, shrouding the kingdom in darkness and chaos, stealing Aurora's harmonious powers. Determined to restore peace to her kingdom, Princess Aurora embarked on a brave quest. Along the way, she encountered colorful characters: a brave knight named Sir Cedric, a mischievous fairy named Lily, and a wise old wizard named Merlin. Together they journeyed through enchanted forests, treacherous mountains, and mysterious caves, facing numerous challenges and tests for courage. Along the way, Aurora learned valuable lessons about friendship, bravery, and the true meaning of harmony. After many trials and tribulations, Princess Aurora and her companions finally confronted Malachi in his dark fortress. With the power of friendship and the strength of her heart, Aurora broke the sorcerer's spell, restoring harmony to the kingdom once more. As the sun rose on a new day, Princess Aurora was hailed as a hero, her magical powers stronger than ever before, and from that day on she vowed to use her gift to spread harmony and happiness throughout the land, inspiring all who crossed her path with her courage and kindness. And thus the kingdom flourished, forever bathed in the light of Princess Aurora's enduring spirit. In the heart of a lush forest where sunlight danced through the branches and the air was sweet with the scent of blossoms, there lay a hidden garden unlike any other. This was the magical garden, a place of wonder and enchantment where flowers of every color and shape bloomed in abundance. At the center of the garden stood a majestic rose bush, its petals as red as rubies and as soft as silk. This was Rosa, the queen of the garden, beloved by all who dwelt within its verdant borders. Surrounding Rosa were her loyal subjects, the daffodils with their golden trumpets, the lilies with their pure white petals, and the tulips with their vibrant hues of red, yellow, and purple. Together they formed a tapestry of beauty that captivated all who beheld it. But despite the garden's splendor, there was a shadow lurking at its edges. The dark and sinister nightshade, with his thorny vines and poisonous blossoms, Nightshade sought to spread his influence and bring darkness to the once bright garden. Determined to protect their home, Rosa and her companions waged a constant battle against Nightshade, thwarting his every attempt to wreak havoc upon the garden, but try as they might, they could not vanquish him entirely, for his power was great and his malice unyielding. One day, at Nightshade launched yet another assault upon the garden. Rosa and her companions realized that they could not defeat him through strength alone. They needed a different approach, a way to outsmart their foe and restore peace to the land. And so they devised a plan. They would use their most powerful weapon, the magic of their blossoms, to create a barrier that would shield the garden from Nightshade's dark influence. But to do so, they needed the help of a special flower, one whose petals held the key to unlocking the garden's true potential. That flower was Lily, a shy and delicate bloom with petals as white as snow and a fragrance that could rival the sweetest perfume. Though she was small and unassuming, Lily possessed a magic all her own, the power to bring light and hope to even the darkest of places. With Rosa's guidance, Lily began to harness her magic, weaving a tapestry of light and color that shimmered in the sunlight. Together, they worked tirelessly, pouring their hearts and souls into their task until at last the barrier was complete. At Nightshade launched his final assault upon the garden, he found himself thwarted at every turn by the barrier's protector embrace. Try as he might, he could not penetrate its defenses, for the magic of the flowers was stronger than any darkness he could master. Defeated and humbled, Nightshade slunk away into the shadows, his power broken and his reign of terror at an end. But in the garden's heart, Rosa and Lily stood side by side, their bond stronger than ever before, as they basked in the warmth of the sun and the beauty of the newfound peach. From that day forward, the magical garden flourished as never before, its flowers blooming brighter and more beautiful than ever under the watchful gaze of Rosa and Lily. And though challenges would surely arise in the future, they knew that as long as they stood together, their garden would remain a sanctuary of light and love for all eternity. Once upon a time, in a cozy little town nestled between rolling hills and lush green meadows, there lived two curious cats named Whiskers and Mittens. Whiskers was a bold tabby with stripes as sharp as his curiosity, while Mittens was a fluffy wild cat with paws as soft as her heart. Together they embarked on the most extraordinary adventures. One sunny afternoon, as Whiskers and Mittens lounged lazily on the windowsill of their cozy home, they caught a glimpse of something peculiar beyond the garden fence. It was a fluttering butterfly, its delicate wings shimmering in the sunlight. Whiskers, did you see that? Mittens explained, her eyes wide with wonder. Indeed, I did, Mittens. It seems there is a whole world out there waiting to be explored, replied Whiskers, his whiskers twitching with excitement. With a determined flick of their tails, Whiskers and Mittens slipped through the slightly ajar gate and into the enchanted garden beyond. The air was filled with the sweet scent of flowers, and the sound of bird song echoed through the trees. As they wandered deeper into the garden, they stumbled upon a winding path lined with colorful blooms of every shape and size. Their curiosity piqued. They followed the path, their pawn steps light and eager. Suddenly, they came upon a mysterious clearing, bathed in the soft glow of the afternoon sun. At the center of the clearing stood an ancient oak tree, its branches reaching towards the sky like outstretched arms. But what truly captured their attention was the sight of a sparkling fountain nestled beneath the tree, its crystal clear waters dancing in the sunlight. Whiskers, look, Mittens whispered in amazement. It's like something out of a fairy tale. Without hesitation, Whiskers bounded toward the fountain, his tail held high with excitement. Mittens followed close behind her, eyes shining the wonder. As they approached the fountain, they noticed something peculiar etched into the stone basin. A riddle written in elegant script. To unlock the secrets of this garden fair, seek the answer hidden in the air. With a keen eye and a curious mind, the treasure you seek you shall find. Whiskers and Mittens exchanged puzzled glances before turning their attention to the riddle. With their heads held high and their hearts full of determination, they set out to solve the mystery before them. They searched high and low, exploring every nook and cranny of the garden with their keen eyes and sharp wits. They chased butterflies, climbed trees, and sniffed every flower in sight. But the answer eluded them. Just as they were beginning to lose hope, Mittens noticed something shimmering in the sunlight. It was a tiny key, nestled among the petals of a bright red rose. Whiskers, look, I think I've found something, Mittens explained, her eyes alight with excitement. With trembling paws, Whiskers plucked the key from the rose and held it up to the light. It glinted brightly, as if promising untold wonders. Without hesitation, they rushed back to the fountain and inserted the key into the ornate lock. With a click, the fountain sprang to life, sending cascades of sparkling water into the air. But that wasn't all. As the water danced and twirled, a hidden door nestled within the base of the fountain swung open, revealing a secret chamber filled with treasures beyond imagination. Whiskers and Mittens gasped in awe as they gazed upon the treasures before them, shimmering jewels, golden coins, and precious artifacts from a time long forgotten. But amidst the glittering treasures, there was something else, something far more valuable than gold or jewels. It was a sense of wonder, of adventure, of endless possibility. With their hearts full and their spirits soaring, Whiskers and Mittens knew that they had discovered something truly magical. The power of curiosity, friendship, and the boundless beauty of the world around them. And so, with the sun settling on the horizon and the garden bathed in the soft glow of twilight, Whiskers and Mittens bid farewell to the enchanted garden and set off on their next great adventure, knowing that wherever their curiosity led them, they would always have each other by their side. Once upon a time, in the quaint town of Poussington, there lived a mischievous and lovable dog named Barkley. Barkley was a fluffy golden retriever with a heart was as big as his appetite for adventure. He lived with his human family in a cozy house nestled between two towering oak trees. Barkley's days were filled with excitement and curiosity as he roamed the neighborhood with his furry companions. His best friend, a spirited border collie named Bella, was always by his side, ready to join in on any escapade. One sunny morning, as Barkley and Bella were frolicking in the park, they stumbled upon a mysterious map buried beneath a pile of fallen leaves. The map depicted a hidden treasure buried deep within the enchanted forest on the outskirts of town. Without hesitation, Barkley and Bella decided to embark on a quest to find the treasure and unlock its secrets. Joined by a motley crew of canine companions, including Max, the adventurous husky, Luna, the graceful greyhound, and Charlie, the playful dachshund. Barkley and Bella set off on their great adventure. Their journey was fraught with perilous obstacles, including treacherous rivers, dark caves, and cunning adversaries. But with courage, teamwork, and unwavering determination, they overcame each challenge that crossed their path. Along the way, they encountered a wise old dog named Winston, who shared tales of ancient legends and bestowed upon them invaluable wisdom. With Winston's guidance, Barkley and his friends pressed on, their spirits undeterred by the trials they faced. Finally, after days of relentless pursuit, they arrived at the heart of the enchanted forest where the treasure awaited. With bated breath, they unearthed a chest filled with shimmering jewels, sparkling trinkets, and a map leading to even greater adventures. As they celebrated their triumph, Barkley and his friends realized that the true treasure was not the riches they had found, but the bonds of friendship they had forged along the way. With joyful barks and wagging tails, they returned home, their hearts filled with memories that would last a lifetime. From that day forward, Barkley and his friends continued to embark on countless adventures, exploring the wonders of the world together and spreading joy wherever they went. And though their journey may have ended, their tale lived on as a testament to the power of courage, friendship, and the boundless spirit of adventure. Very long ago, as old people have told me, there lived a terrible monster who came out of the north and laid waste whole tracts of country, devouring both men and beasts. And this monster was so destructive that it was feared that unless help came, no living creature would be left on the face of the earth. If had a body like an ox and legs like a frog, two short forelegs and two long ones behind, and besides that it had a tail like a serpent 10 fathoms in length. When it moved, it jumped like a frog, and with every spring it covered half a mile of ground. Fortunately, its habit was to remain for several years in the same place and not to move on till the night whole neighborhood was eaten up. Nothing could hunt it because its whole body was covered with scales which were harder than steel or metal. Its two great eyes shone by night and even by day like the brightest lamps, and anyone who had the ill luck to look into those eyes became as it were bewitched, and was obliged to rush of his own accord into the monster's jaws. In this way, the dragon was able to feed upon both men and beasts without the least trouble to itself, as it needed not to move from the spot where it was lying. All the neighboring kings had offered rich rewards to anyone who should be able to destroy the monster either by force or enchantment, and many had tried their luck, but all had miserably failed. Once a great forest in which the dragon lay had been set on fire. The forest was burned down, but the fire did not do the monster the least harm. However, there was a tradition amongst the wise men of the country that the dragon might be overcome by one who possessed King Solomon's signet ring, upon which a secret writing was engraved. This inscription would enable anyone who was wise enough to interpret it to find out how the dragon could be destroyed. Only no one knew where the ring was hidden, nor was there any sorcerer or learned man to be found who would be able to explain the inscription. At last, a young man with a gold heart and plenty of courage set out to search for the ring. He took his way towards the sun rising because he knew that all the wisdom of old time comes from the east. After some years, he met with a famous Eastern magician and asked for his advice in the matter. The magician answered, "Mortal men have but little wisdom and can give you no help, but the birds of the air would be better guides to you if you could learn their language. I can help you to understand it if you will stay with me a few days." The youth thankfully accepted the magician's offer and said, "I cannot now offer you any reward for your kindness, but should my undertaking succeed, your trouble shall be richly repaid." Then the magician brewed a powerful potion out of 9 sorts of herbs, which he had gathered himself all alone by moonlight, and he gave the youth 9 spoonfuls of it daily for 3 days, which made him able to understand the language of birds. At parting, the magician said to him, "If you ever find Solomon's ring and get possession of it, then come back to me, that I may explain the inscription on the ring to you, for there is no one else in the world who can do this." From that time, the youth never felt lonely as they walked along. He always had company, always, because he understood the language of birds, and this way he learned many things which your human knowledge could never have taught him. But time went on, and he heard nothing about the ring. It happened one evening when he was hot and tired with walking and had sat down under a tree in a forest to eat his supper, that he saw two gaily plumaged birds that were strange to him, sitting at the top of the tree, talking to one another about him. The first bird said, "I know that wandering fool under the tree there, who has come so far without finding what he seeks. He is trying to find King Solomon's lost ring." The other bird answered, "He will have to seek help from the witch maiden, who will doubtless be able to put him on the right track if she has not got the ring herself. She knows well enough who has it." "But where is he to find the witch maiden?" said the first bird. "She has no settled dwelling, but is here today and gone tomorrow. He might as well try to catch the wind." The other replied, "I do not know certainly where she is at present, but in 3 nights from now he will come to the spring to wash her face, as she does every month when the moon is full, in order that she may never grow old nor wrinkled, but may always keep the bloom of youth." "Well," said the first bird, "the spring is not far from here. Shall I go and see how it is she does it?" "Willingly, if you like," said the other. The youth immediately resolved to follow the birds to the spring. Only two things made him uneasy. First, lest he might be asleep when the birds went, and secondly, lest he might lose sight of them, since he had not wings to carry him along so swiftly. He was too tired to keep awake all night, yet his anxiety prevented him from sleeping soundly, and when, with the earliest dawn, he looked up to the tree-top, he was glad to see his feathered companions still asleep with their heads under their wings. He ate his breakfast and waited until the birds should start, but they did not leave the place all day. They hopped about from one tree to another looking for food all day long until the evening, when they went back to their old perch to sleep. The next day the same thing happened, but on the third morning one bird said to another, "Today we must go to the spring to see the witched maiden wash her face." They remained on the tree till noon, then they flew away and went towards the south. The young man's heart beat with anxiety lest he should lose sight of his guides, but he managed to keep the birds in view until they again perched upon a tree. The young man ran after them until he was quite exhausted and out of breath, and after 3 short races, the birds at length reached a small open space in the forest, on the edge of which they placed themselves on the top of a high tree. When the youth had overtaken them, he saw that there was a clear spring in the middle of the space. He sat down at the foot of the tree upon which the birds were perched, and listening attentively to what they were saying to each other. "The sun is not down yet," said the first bird. "We must wait yet a while till the moon rises and the maiden comes to the spring. Do you think she will see that young man sitting under the tree?" "Nothing is likely to escape her eyes, certainly not a young man," said the other bird. "Will the youth have the sense not to let himself be caught in her toils?" "We will wait," said the first bird, "and see how they set on together." The evening light had quite faded, and the full moon was already shining down upon the forest, when the young man heard a slight rustling sound. After a few moments, there came out of the forest a maiden, gliding over the grass so lightly that her feet seemed scarcely to touch the ground, and stood beside the spring. The youth could not turn away his eyes from the maiden, for he had never in his life seen a woman so beautiful. Without seeming to notice anything, she went to the spring, looked up to the full moon, then knelt down and bathed her face 9 times, then looked up to the moon again and walked 9 times round the well, and as she walked, she sang this song. Full-faced moon with light unshaded, let my beauty ne'er be faded. Never let my cheek glow pale, while the noon is waning lightly. May the maiden bloom more brightly, may her freshness never fail. Then she dried her face with her long hair and was about to go away, when her eyes suddenly fall upon the spot where the young man was sitting, and she turned towards the tree. The young rose and stood waiting. Then the maiden said, "You ought to have a heavy punishment because you have presumed to watch my secret doings in the moonlight. But I'll forgive you this time, because you are a stranger and knew no better. But you must tell me truly who you are and how you come to this place where no mortal has ever set foot before." The youth answered humbly, "Forgive me, beautiful maiden, if I have unintentionally offended you. I chanced to come here after long wandering and found a good place to sleep under this tree. At your coming, I did not know what to do, but stayed where I was, because I thought my silent watching could not offend you." The maiden answered kindly, "Come and spend this night with us. You will sleep better on a pillow than on damp moss." The youth hesitated for a little, but presently he heard the bird saying from the top of the tree, "Go where she calls you, but take care to give no blood, or you will sell your soul." So the youth went with her, and soon they reached a beautiful garden, where stood a splendid house which glittered in the moonlight as if it was all built out of gold and silver. When the youth entered, he found many splendid chambers, each one finer than the last. Hundreds of tapers burnt upon golden candlesticks and shed a light like the brightest day. At length they reached a chamber where a table was spread with the most costly dishes. At the table were placed 2 chairs, one of silver and other of gold. The maiden seated herself upon the golden chair and offered the silver one to her companion. They were served by maiden dressed in white, whose feet made no sound as they moved about, and not a word was spoken during the meal. Afterwards, the youth and the witch maiden conversed pleasantly together until a woman dressed in red came in to remind them that it was bedtime. The youth was now shown into another room containing a silken bed with down cushions, where he slept delightfully. Yet he seemed to hear a voice near his bed which repeated to him, "Remember to give no blood." The next morning, the maiden asked him whether he would not like to stay with her always in this beautiful place, and he did not answer immediately. She continued, "You see How I always remain young and beautiful, and I'm under no one's orders, but can do just what I like. So that I have never thought of marrying before. But from the moment I saw you, I took a fancy to you. And so, if you agree, we might be married and might live together like princes because I have great riches. The youth could not but be tempted with the beautiful maiden's offer, but he remembered how the birds had called her the witch, and their warning always sounded in his ears. Therefore, he answered cautiously, "Do not be angry, dear maiden, if I do not decide immediately on this important matter. Give me a few days to consider before we come to an understanding." "Why not?" answered the maiden. "Take some weeks to consider if you like, and take counsel with your own heart." And to make the time pass pleasantly, she took the youth over every part of her beautiful dwelling and showed him all the splendid treasures. But these treasures were all produced by enchantment, for the maiden could make anything she wishes appeared by the help of King Solomon's signet ring. Only none of these things remained fixed. They passed away like the wind without leaving a trace behind, but the youth did not know this. He thought they were all real. One day, the maiden took him into a secret chamber, where a little gold box was standing on a silver table. Pointing to the box, she said, "Here is my greatest treasure, whose like is not to be found in the whole world. It is a precious gold ring. When you marry me, I'll give you this ring as a marriage gift, and it will make you the happiest of mortal men. But in order that our love may last forever, you must give me for the ring 3 drops of blood from the little finger of your left hand." When the youth heard these words, a colder shudder ran over him, for he remembered that his soul was at stake. He was cunning enough, however, to conceal his feelings and to make no direct answer, but he only asked the maiden, as if carelessly, what was remarkable about the ring. She answered, "No mortal is able entirely to understand the power of this ring, because no one truly understands the secret science engraved upon it. But even with my half knowledge, I can work great wonders. If I put the ring upon the little finger of my left hand, then I can fly like a bird through the air wherever I wish to go. If I put it on the third finger of my left hand, I am invisible, and I can see everything that passes around me, though no one can see me. If I put the ring upon the middle finger of my left hand, then neither fire nor water nor any sharp weapon can hurt me. If I put it on the forefinger of my left hand, then I can, with its help, produce whatever I wish. I can in a single moment build houses or anything I desire. Finally, as long as I wear the ring on the thumb of my left hand, that hand is so strong that it can break down rocks and walls. Besides this, the ring has other secret signs which I said no one can understand. No doubt it contains secret of great importance." The ring formerly belonged to King Solomon, the wisest of kings, during whose reign the wisest man lived, but it is not known whether this ring was ever made by mortal hands. It is supposed that an angel gave it to the wise king. When the youth heard all this, he determined to try and get possession of the ring, though he did not quite believe it all its wonderful gifts. He wished the maiden would let him have it in his hand, but he did not quite like to ask her to do so, and after a while she put it back into the box. A few days after, they were again speaking of the magic ring, and the youth said, I do not think it possible that the ring can have all the power you say it has. Then the maiden opened the box and took the ring out, and it glittered as she held it like the clearest sunbeam. She put it on the middle finger on her left hand and told the youth to take a knife and try as hard as he could to cut her with it, for he would not able to hurt her. He was willingly at first, but the maiden insisted. Then he tried at first only in prayer, then seriously to strike with the knife, but an invisible wall of iron seemed to be between them, and the maiden stood before him laughing and unhurt. Then she put the ring on her third finger, and in an instant she had vanished from his eyes. Presently she was beside him again laughing and holding the ring between her fingers. Do let me try, said the youth, whether I can do these wonderful things. The maiden, suspecting no treachery, gave him the magic ring. The youth pretended to have forgotten what to do and asked what finger he must put the ring on so that no sharp weapon can hurt him. Oh, the middle finger of your left hand, the maiden answered, laughing. She took the knife and tried to strike the youth, and he even tried to cut himself with it, but found it impossible. Then he asked the maiden to show him how to split stone and rocks with the help of the ring. So she led him into a courtyard where stood a great boundary stone. Now, she said, put the ring upon the thumb of your left hand, and you will see how strong that hand has become. The youth did so, and found to his astonishment, with a single blow of his fist, the stone blew into 1,000 pieces. Then the youth bethought him with he does not use the luck when he has it is a fool, and that this was a chance which once lost might never return. So awhile they stood, laughing at the shattered stone. He placed the ring, as if in play, upon the third finger of his left hand. Now, said the maiden, you are invisible to me until you take the ring off again. But the youth had no mind to do that. On the contrary, he went farther off, and put the ring on the little finger of his left hand, and soared into the air like a bird. When the maiden saw him flying away, she thought at first that he was still play, and cried, come back, friend, for you see I have told you the truth. But the young man never came back. The young man never halted in his flight until he reached the dwelling of the wise magician who had taught him the speech of birds. The magician was delighted to find that his search had been successful, and at once set to work to interpret the secret signs engraved upon the ring, but he took him 7 weeks to make them out clearly. Then he gave the youth the following instructions how to overcome the dragon of the north. You must have an iron horse cast, which must have little wheels under each foot. You must also be armed with a spear 2 fathoms long, which you will be able to wield by means of the magic ring upon your left thumb. The spear must be as thick in the middle as the large tree, and both its ends must be sharp. In the middle of the spear, you must have 2 strong chains 10 fathoms in length. As soon as the dragon has made himself fast to the spear, which you must thrust through iron stakes so that he cannot get away from them, After 2 or 3 days, the monster's strength will be so far exhausted that you will be able to come near him. Then you can put Solomon's ring upon your left thumb and give him the finishing stroke. But keep the ring on your third finger until you have come close to him so that the monster cannot see you. Else he might strike you dead with his long tail. But when all is done, take care you do not lose the ring, but that no one can take it from you by cunning. The young man thanked the magician for his directions and promised, should they succeed, to reward him. But the magician answered, I have profited so much by the wisdom the ring has taught me that I desire no other reward. Then they parted, and the youth quickly flew home through the air. After remaining in his own home for some weeks, he heard people say that the terrible dragon of the north was not far off and might shortly be expected in the country. The king announced publicly that he would give his daughter in marriage, as well as the large part of his kingdom, to whomsoever should free the country from the monster. The youth then went to the king and told him that he had good hopes of subduing the dragon if the king would grant him all the desired for the purpose. The king willingly agreed, and the iron horse, the great spear, and the chains were all prepared as the youth requested. When all was ready, it was found that the iron horse was so heavy that 100 men could not move it from the spot. So the youth found there was nothing for it but to move it with his own strength by means of the magic ring. The dragon was now so near that in a couple of springs he would be over the frontier. The youth now began to consider how she should act. For if he had to push the iron horse from behind, the could not open it as the sorcerer had said he must. But a raven unexpectedly gave him this advice: ride upon the horse and push the spear against the ground as if you were pushing off a boat from the land. The youth did so and found that in this way he could easily move forwards. The dragon had his monstrous jaws wide open, all ready for his expected prey. A few paces nearer, and man and horse would have been swallowed up by them. The youth trembled with horror, and his blood ran cold. Yet he did not lose his courage, but holding the iron spear upright in his hand, he brought it down with all his might right through the monster's lower jaw. Then, quick as lightning, he sprang from his horse before the dragon had time to shut his mouth. A fearful clap like thunder, which could be heard for miles around, now warned him that the dragon's jaw had closed upon the spear. When the youth turned round, he saw the point of the spear sticking up high above the dragon's upper jaw, and knew that the other end must be fastened firmly to the ground. But the dragon had got his teeth fixed in the iron horse, which was now useless. The youth now hastened to fasten down the chains to the ground by means of the emotions iron pegs which he had provided. The death struggle of the monster lasted 3 days and 3 nights. In his writhing, he beat his tail so violently against the ground that at 10 miles distance the earth trembled as if with the earthquake. When he at length lost power to move his tail, the youth, with the help of the ring, took up a stone which 20 ordinary men could not have moved, and beat the dragon so hard about the head with it that very soon the monster lay lifeless long before him. You can fancy How great was the rejoicing when the news was spread abroad that the terrible monster was dead. His conquerors were received into the city with as much pomp as if he had been the mightiest of kings. The old king did not need to urge his daughter to marry the slayer of the dragon. He found her already willing to bestow her hand upon this hero he had done all alone, what whole armies had tried in vain to do. In a few days, a magnificent wedding was celebrated, at which the rejoicings lasted 4 whole weeks, for all the neighboring kings had met together to thank the man who had freed the world from their common enemy. But everyone forgot, amid the general joy, that they ought to have buried the dragon's monstrous body, for it began now to have such a bad smell that no one could live in the neighborhood, and before long the whole air was poisoned, and a pestilence broke out which destroyed many hundreds of people. In this distress, the king's son in law resolved to seek help once more from the eastern magician. To him, he at once traveled through the air like a bird by the help of the ring. There is a proverb which says that ill gotten gains never prosper, and the prince found that the stolen ring brought him ill luck after all. The witch maiden had never rested night nor day until she had found out where the ring was. As soon as she had discovered by means of magical arts that the prince in the Eastern magician, she changed herself into an eagle and watched in the air until the bird she was waiting to come in sight. For she knew him at once by the ring which was hung round his neck by a ribbon. Then the eagle pounced upon the bird, and the moment she seized him in her talons, she tore the ring from his neck before the man in bird shape had time to prevent her. Then the eagle flew down to the earth with her prey, and the two stood face to face once more in human form. Now, villain, you are in my power, cried the witch maiden. I favored you with my love, and you repaid me with treachery and theft. You stole my most precious jewel from me. And do you expect to have Lively as the king's son in law? Now the tables are turned. You are in my power, and I'll be revenged on you for your crimes. Forgive me, cried the prince. I know too well how deeply I have wronged you, and most heartily do I repent it. The maiden answered, your prayers and your repentance come too late, and if I were to spare you, everyone would think me a fool. You have doubly wronged me. First you scorned my love, and then you stole my ring, and you must bear the punishment. With these words, she put the ring upon her left thumb, lifted the young man with one hand, and walked away with him under her arm. This time she did not take him to a splendid palace, but to a deep cave in a rock, where were chains hanging from the wall. The maiden now chained the young man's hands and feet so that he could not escape. Then she said in an angry voice, here you shall remain chained up until you die. I'll bring you every day enough food to prevent you dying of hunger, but you need never hope for freedom anymore. With these words she left him. The old king and his daughter waited anxiously for many weeks for the prince's return, but no news of him arrived. The king's daughter often dreamed that her husband was going through some great suffering. She therefore begged her father to summon all the enchanters and magicians that they might try to find out where the prince was and how he could be set free. But the magicians, with all their arts, could find out nothing, except that he was still living and undergoing under great suffering, but none could tell where he was to be found. At last, a celebrated magician from Finland was brought before the king, who had found out that the king's son in law was imprisoned in the east not by men, but by some more powerful being. The king now sent messengers to the east to look for his son in law, and they by good luck met with the old magician who had interpreted the signs on King Solomon's ring and thus was possessed of more wisdom than anyone else in the world. The magician soon found out what he wished to know and pointed out the place where the prince was present, but said, "He escaped there by enchantment and cannot be saved free without my help. I will therefore go with you myself." So they all set out, guided by birds, and after some days come to the cave where the unfortunate prince had been chained up for nearly 7 years. He recognized the magician immediately, but the old man did not know him. He had grown so thin. However, he undid the chains by the help and take care him until he recovered and became strong enough to travel. When he reached home, he found that the old king had died that morning, so that he was now raised to be throne. And now, after his long suffering, came prosperity, which lasted to the end of his life. But he never got back to the magic ring, nor has it ever again been seen by mortal eyes. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a kind and loving king and queen who longed for a child. After years of waiting, their wish was granted when a beautiful baby girl was born. The entire kingdom rejoiced, and the king and queen threw a grand celebration, inviting fairies from all corners of the land to bestow blessings upon their precious daughter. Each fairy bestowed upon the newborn princess a special gift. One fairy blessed her with beauty, another with grace, and another with intelligence. But just as the last fairy was about to bestow her gift, an evil fairy who had not been invited to the celebration burst into the palace in a fit of rage. Enraged at being excluded, the evil fairy cursed the princess, declaring that on her 16th birthday she would prick her finger on a spindle and fall into a deep sleep, from which she could only be awakened by true love's kiss. The king and queen were devastated, but the last good fairy used her magic to soften the curse, decreeing that the entire kingdom would fall asleep along with the princess and awaken with her. Determined to protect their daughter, the king and queen ordered all the spindles in the kingdom to be destroyed and forbade the princess from overtouching one. Years passed, and the princess grew into a kind and gentle young woman, beloved by all who knew her. But on the eve of her 16th birthday, while exploring the castle, she stumbled upon an old tower hidden deep within the palace walls. Curiosity getting the better of her, the princess entered the tower and discovered an old woman spinning thread on a spindle. Mesmerized by the spinning wheel, she reached out to touch it, pricking her finger and fulfilling the evil fairy curse. As soon as the spindle pierced her skin, the princess fell into a deep slumber, and the entire kingdom fell asleep alongside her. For years, the kingdom lay dormant, hidden from the outside world by a thick forest of thorns that grew up around the castle. But one day a brave prince stumbled upon the hidden kingdom and was determined to awaken the sleeping princess. Fighting his way through the thorns, he finally reached the castle and found the princess lying in her chamber, still as beautiful as the day she fell asleep. Moved by her beauty, the prince leaned down and kissed her on the cheeks. The princess stared, her eyes fluttering open. She awoke from her enchanted slumber. With the curse broken, the kingdom burst back to life, and the king and queen rejoiced to have their daughter return to them. The prince and princess were married in a grand ceremony, and they ruled the kingdom together with wisdom and compassion, ensuring that peace and happiness prevailed for generations to come. And though the evil fairy's curse had brought darkness to their lives, it was ultimately overcome by the power of true love, proving that even the deepest of slumbers can be wakened by the magic of love's kiss. Once upon a time, in a kingdom far away, there lived a beautiful princess named Elara. She had long flowing hair as golden as the sun and eyes as blue as the clearest skies. But despite her outer beauty, Elara had a heart full of kindness and compassion. One morning, summer evening, while wandering through the royal gardens, Elara stumbled upon a magical pond hidden deep within the forest. Its waters shimmered with a captivating glow, and the air was filled with the sweet melodies of nature. As Elara gazed into the pond, she noticed a small green frog sitting on a lily pad, its eyes sparkling with curiosity. The frog croaked softly, capturing Elara's attention. Intrigued, she leaned closer to listen. "I am Prince Finn," the frog declared in a surprisingly melodious voice. "A weak enchantment has befallen me, and only a pure hearted princess like yourself can break the spell." Moved by the frog's pleas, Elara promised to help him. With a gentle touch, she lifted Prince Finn from the lily pad and cradled him in her hands. Together, they embarked on a journey to undo the curse. Their quest led them through dark forests and treacherous mountains, but Elara's unwavering courage and Prince Finn's unwavering faith kept them going. Along the way, they encountered helpful creatures and daunting challenges, each bringing them closer to their goal. Finally, after many trials and tribulations, they reached the lair of the evil sorcerer who had cast the curse. With determination burning in her heart, Elara confronted the sorcerer and demanded him undo the spell. The sorcerer, taken aback by Elara's bravery, reluctantly lifted the curse, transforming Prince Finn back into his human form. As gratitude filled his eyes, he thanked Elara for her selflessness and vowed to always cherish her friendship. With the curse broken and Prince Finn restored, Elara returned to her kingdom, her heart brimming with joy. The enchanted pond remained a symbol of their incredible journey, a testament to the power of kindness, courage, and friendship. And so, Princess Elara and Prince Finn lived happily ever after. Their bond is stronger than ever before, proving that even the most unlikely of friendships can overcome the darkest of spells. Once upon a time, in a large forest, there lived an old woman and three maidens. They were all three beautiful, but the youngest was the fairest. Their hut was quite hidden by trees, and none saw their beauty but the sun by day, and the moon by night, and the eyes of the stars. The old woman kept the girls hard at work from morning till night, spinning gold flakes into yarn, and when one distaff was empty, another was given them. So they had no rest. The thread had to be fine and even, and when done, was locked up in a secret chamber by the old woman, who twice or thrice every summer went a journey. Before she went, she gave out work for each day of her absence, and always returned in the night so that the girls never saw what she brought back with her. Neither would she tell them whence the gold flakes came, nor what it was to be used for. Now, when the time came round for the old woman to set out on one of these journeys, she gave each maiden work for 6 days with the usual warning: "Children, don't let your eyes wander, and on no account speak to a man, for if you do, your thread will lose its brightness, and misfortunes of all kinds will follow." They laughed at this oft repeated caution, saying to each other, "How can our gold thread lose its brightness, and have we any chance of speaking to a man?" On the third day after the old woman's departure, a young prince, hunting in the forest, got separated from his companions and completely lost. Weary of seeking his way, he flung himself down under a tree, leaving his horse to browse at will, and fell asleep. The sun had set when he awoke and began once more to try and find his way out of the forest. At last he perceived a narrow footpath, which he eagerly followed, and found that it led him to a small hut. The maidens, who were sitting at the door of their hut for coolness, saw him approaching, and the old two elder were much alarmed, for they remembered the old woman's warning. But the youngest said, "Never before have I seen anyone like him. Let me have one look." They entreated her to come in, but seeing that she would not, left her, and the prince, coming up, courteously greeted the maiden and told her he had lost his way in the forest and was both hungry and weary. She set food before him and was so delighted with his conversation that she forgot the old woman's caution and lingered for hours. In the meantime, the prince's companions sought him far and wide, but to no purpose, so they sent two messengers to tell that sad news to the king, who immediately ordered a regiment of cavalry and one of infantry to go and look for him. After 3 days' search, they found the hut. The prince was still sitting by the door and had been so happy in the maiden's company that the time had seemed like a single hour. Before leaving, he promised to return and fetch her to his father's court, where he would make her his bride. When he had gone, she sat down to her wheel to make up for lost time and was dismayed to find that her thread had lost all its brightness. Her heart beat fast and she wept bitterly, for she remembered the old woman's warning and knew not what misfortune might now befall her. The old woman returned in the night and knew by the tarnished thread what had happened in her absence. She was furiously angry and told the maiden that she had brought down misery both on herself and on the prince. The maiden could not rest for thinking of this. At last she could bear it no longer and resolved to seek help from the prince. As a child, she had learned to understand the speech of birds, and this was how now of great use to her, for seeing a raven pluming itself on a pine bough, she cried softly to it, "Dear bird, cleverest of all birds, as well as swiftest on wing, wilt thou help me?" "How can I help you?" asked the raven. She answered, "Fly away until you come to a splendid town where stands a king's palace. Seek out the king's son and tell him that a great misfortune has befallen me." Then she told the raven how her thread had lost its brightness, how terribly angry the old woman was, and how she feared some great disaster. The raven promised faithfully to do her bidding, and spreading its wings, flew away, and the maiden now went home and worked hard all day at winging up the yarn her elder sisters had spun. For the old woman would her let spin no longer. Toward evening she heard the raven's cry from the pine tree and eagerly hastened there to hear the answer. By great good fortune, the raven had found a wind-wizard's son in the palace garden, who understood the speech of birds, and to him he had entrusted the message. When the prince heard it, he was very sorrowful and took counsel with his friends how to free the maiden. Then he said to the wind wizard's son, "Beg the raven to fly quickly back to the maiden and tell her to be ready on the 9th night, for then will I come and fetch her away." The wind wizard's son did this, and the raven flew so swiftly that it reached the hut that same evening. The maiden thanked the bird heartily and went home, telling no one what she had heard. As the 9th night drew near, she became very unhappy, for she feared lest some terrible mischance should arise and ruin all. On this night she crept quickly out of the house and waited trembling at some little distance from the hut. Presently she heard the muffled tramp of horses, and soon the armed troop appeared, led by the prince, who had prudently marked all the trees beforehand. In order to know this way, when he saw the maiden, he sprang from his horse, lifted her into the saddle, and then mounting behind rode homeward. The moon shone so brightly that they had no difficulty in seeing the marked trees. By and by the coming of dawn loosened the tongues of all the birds, and had the prince only known that they were saying, or the maiden been listening, they might have been spared much sorrow, but they were thinking only of each other. And when they came out of the forest, the sun was high in the heavens. Next morning, when the youngest girl did not come to her work, the old woman asked where she was. The sisters pretended not to know, but the old woman easily guessed what had happened. And as she was in reality a wicked witch determined to punish the fugitives, accordingly she collected 9 different kinds of enchanters' nightshade, added some salt, which she first bewitched, and doing all up in a cloth into the shape of a fluffy ball, sent it after them on the wings of the wind, saying, "Where wind, mother of the wind, lend thy aid 'gainst her who sinned. Carry with thee this magic ball, cast her from his arms forever, bury her in the rippling river." At midday, the prince and his men come to a deep river spanned by so narrow a bridge that only one rider could cross at a time. The horse on which the prince and the maiden were riding had just reached the middle when the magic ball flew by. The horse, in its fright, suddenly reared, and before anyone could stop it, flung the maiden into the swift current below. The prince tried to jump in after her, but his men held him back, and, in spite of his struggles, led him home, where for 6 weeks he shut himself up in a secret chamber and would either eat nor drink, so great was his grief. At last he became so ill his life was despaired of, and in great alarm the king caused all the wizards of his country to be summoned, but none could cure him. At last the wind wizard's son said to the king, "Send for the old wizard from Finland. He knows more than all the wizards of your kingdom put together." A messenger was at once sent to Finland, and a week later the old wizard himself arrived on the wings of the wind. "Honored king," said the wizard, "the wind has blown this illness upon your son, and a magic ball has snatched away his beloved. This it is which makes him grieve so constantly. Let the wind blow upon him, that it may blow away his sorrow." Then the king made his son go out into the wind, and he gradually recovered and told his father all. "Forget the maiden," said the king, "and take another bride." But the prince said he could never love another. A year afterward, he came suddenly upon the bridge where his beloved met her death. As he recalled the misfortune, he wept bitterly and would have given all the possessed to have her once more alive. In the midst of his grief, he thought he heard a voice singing and looked around, but could not see no one. Then he heard the voice again, and it said, "Alas, bewitched and all forsaken, 'tis I must lie for ever here. My beloved no thought has taken to free his bride that was so dear." He was greatly astonished, sprang from his horse, and looked everywhere to see if no one were hidden under the bridge, but no one was there. Then he noticed a yellow water lily floating on the surface of the water, half hidden by its broad leaves, but flowers do not sing, and in great surprise he waited, hoping to hear more. Then again the voice sang, "Alas, bewitched and all forsaken, 'tis I must lie for ever here. My beloved no thought has taken to free his bride that was so dear." The prince suddenly remembered the gold spinners and said to himself, "If I read there, who knows but that they could explain this to me?" He at once rode to the hut and found the two maidens at the fountain. He told them what he had befallen their sister the year before, and how he had twice heard a strange song, but yet could see no singer. They said that the yellow water lily could be none other than their sister, who was not dead, but transformed by the magic ball before he went to bed. The eldest made a cake of magic herbs, which she gave him to eat. In the night, he dreamed that he was living in the forest and could understand all that the birds said to each other. Next morning, he said this to the maidens, and they said that the charmed cake had caused it, and advised him to listen well to the birds and see what they could see him and tell him. And when he had recovered his bride, they begged him to return and deliver from their wage bondage. Having promised this, he joyfully returned home, and as he was riding through the forest, he could perfectly understand all that the birds said. He heard a thrush say to a magpie, "How stupid men are! They cannot understand the simplest thing." It is now quite a year since the maiden was transformed into a water lily, and though she sings so well that anyone going over the bridge must hear her, yet no one comes to her aid. Her former bridegroom rode over it in a few days ago, and he is to blame for all her misfortunes, added the magpie. If he needs only the words of men, she will remain a flower forever. She were soon delivered where the matter only laid before the old wizard of Finland. After hearing this, the prince wondered how he could get a message conveyed to Finland. He heard one swallow say to another, "Come, let us fly to Finland. We can build together nets there." "Stop, kind friends," cried the prince. "Will you do something for me?" The birds consented, and he said, "Take 1,000 greetings from me to the wizard of Finland, and ask him how I may restore a maiden transformed into a flower to her own form." The swallows flew away, and the prince rode on the bridge. There he waited, hoping to hear the song, but he heard nothing but the rushing of the water and the moaning of the wind, and disappointed rode home. Shortly after, he was sitting in the garden, thinking that the swallows must have forgotten his message, when he saw an eagle flying above him. The bird gradually descended until it perched on a tree close to the prince, and said, "The wizard of Finland greets you, and bids me say that you may free the maiden like this. Go to the river and smear yourself all over the mud. Then say, 'From a man into a crab,' and you will become a crab. Plunge boldly into the water, swim as close as you can to the water lily's roots, and loosen them from the mud and reeds. Let the water flow all over the flower and drift with the current until you come to a mountain ash tree on the left bank. Stop there and say, 'From a crab into a man, from a lily water into a maiden.'" Full of doubt and fear, the prince let some time pass before he was bold enough to attempt to rescue the maiden. Then a crow said to him, "Why do you hesitate? The old wizard has not told you wrong, neither have the birds deceived you. Nothing worse than death can befall me," thought the prince, "and death is better than endless sorrow." So he mounted his horse and went to the bridge. Again he heard the water lilies lament, and hesitated no longer. For one moment the water hissed in his, and then all was silent. He then gasped them and rose to the surface, letting the water flow over the flower. The current carried them down to a stream, and nowhere could he see the mountain ash. At last he saw it, and close by this large stone. Here he stopped and said, From a crab into a man, from a lily water into a maiden. She thanked him for having freed him and the cruel witch's power and willingly consented to marry him. But when they came to the bridge where he had left his horse, it was nowhere to be seen. For though the prince thought he had been a crab only a few hours, he had in reality been under the water for more than 10 days. While they were wondering how they should reach his father's court, they saw a splendid coach driven by 6 gaily caparisoned horses coming along the bank. The king and queen were at church, weeping for their son whom they had long mourned for dead. Great was their delight and astonished when the prince entered, leading the beautiful maiden by the hand. The wedding was at once celebrated, and there was feasting and merry seeking throughout the kingdom for 6 weeks. Some time afterward, the prince and his bride were sitting in the garden when a crow said to him, "Ungrateful creatures, have you forgotten the 2 poor maidens who helped you in your distress? Must they spin gold flax forever? Have no pity on the old witch." The 3 maidens were princesses, whom she stole away when they were children together, with all the silver utensils which she turned into gold flax. Poison was her fittest punishment. The prince was ashamed of having forgotten his promise and set out at once, and by great good fortune reached the hut when the old woman was away. The maidens had dreamed that he was coming and were ready to go with him, but first they made a cake in which they put poison and left it on table where the old woman was likely to see it when she returned. She did see it and thought it looked so tempting that she greedily ate it up and at once dined. In the secret chamber were found 50 wagon loads of gold flax, and as much more was discovered buried. The hut was razed to the ground, and the prince and his bride and her 2 sisters lived happily ever after.